Hi everybody, it's super late at night right now, but I couldn't sleep and decided I'd make this video. I went online and I already know all this stuff, but I thought, what exactly is the Japanese high school system? For a while I thought that was a pretty difficult question to answer, and I tried looking it up on YouTube. And I mean, there are some things, but there wasn't really a direct answer. So I decided to make a video that would give you a direct answer, especially for exchange students. First, let me just tell you when their school year starts and when it ends. Oh, and by the way, I don't really know what it's like for elementary schools. I'm pretty sure middle schools are very similar to high school, but I'm not positive. I only know about high school, and plus that's what most exchange students do, so this should be just fine. Anyway, the first term begins around early April, and then it ends in mid to late July, and that's just the first term. And they start at April because, I mean, in America, they start around August. I don't know why, who decided that. But in Japan, they start it in April because that's when the cherry blossoms are pretty much in full bloom. They want pictures beginning into school like very pretty and stuff, and it makes sense to me. I mean, you want school to like be like kind of like a new beginning, a new start, while in America we're kind of getting into school just as everything is dying. Wow. Anyway, they do still get summer vacation, which is nearly as long as ours is, actually. Theirs is about 1 month though. Their second term begins in, let's see, early September to late December. Then they get a couple of weeks off in between there. For them, Christmas isn't all that special. New Year's is more special than Christmas. Their third term begins in early January and it ends in early March. And then they get a few weeks off in between there too. So a lot of people that the Japanese school year is really long. It really isn't. They start differently than us, and then if you take into account the fact that they have breaks more often than us, and also the fact that they like have these festivals that they get ready for, and they've got like their school festivals that they do, and they spend a lot of time on that. They spend like all day for a week or two. I don't know how long exactly. I don't know, I've never done it. And if you take all of that into account, they really don't have a school year much longer than America. Okay, I'm gonna get a little off topic here. This is where people go wrong in America. They think that having long breaks is a good idea. It's not. You gotta have like a bunch of short breaks. Cause you know how students get really burned out? You know how we get really burned out during the year? Because there's just so much going on all at once. And then during the summer we get so super bored because we've got nothing to do. Yeah. Let's take a little bit from the Japanese and just have breaks often, but not so freaking long that we get bored out of our minds and forget everything. Or, you know, we could also just get off of our butts and stop being lazy. But if you're watching this video and you want to be an exchange student, or you just want to know a little bit more about Japan, chances are you're not one of the lazy Americans. Congratulations. So, first term, it begins in early April, ends in late July, and they got about a month off in between there. Second term, it begins in early September, ends in late December, got a couple of weeks off. And then the third term begins in early January and it ends in early March. And they have a few weeks off there. The typical school day in Japan is about the same length as one here in America. I'm going off of the schedule that I got from my school. Japan has homeroom, which is pretty much just like when they keep things organized and spend 5 minutes doing some. It depends. Homeroom is like that class that lasts just a little bit and then they just kind of like organize things. So this is for my school. I'm going to just read you off what I have for my school. Homeroom starts at 8:35 a.m. and it ends at 8:40 a.m. So it's really only 5 minutes. And then we have morning self-study from 8:40 to 8:50, 10 minutes. There's 6 periods throughout the day, and each one is about 50 minutes long. And in between each period is a span of about 10 minutes for a break. So we have first period through fourth period all in the morning, and then we have lunch break from 12:45 to 1:25. Then we have our last two periods for the day, and then we have homeroom again for about 5 minutes, which is from 3:25 to 3:30. After that, high schools don't have janitors, so the students always clean up after themselves. They always spend like 15 to 20 minutes doing that the entire school. Well, pretty much the entire school. So that leaves me ending the school day at 3:45 p.m. Pretty much the same as an American high school, right? Now, some of you may have heard of clubs, activities in Japan. Sports are also considered clubs. You're not usually required to join a club, but you're pretty much expected to join one. That's why sometimes in anime you hear about the Go Home Club. It's people who don't want to join a club but think that they have to, and so they join the Go Home Club. Yeah, those things actually exist in Japan. It's pretty funny. Club activities can go for a really long time though. A lot of them can go for a couple of hours to a few hours, ending at like late at night. Some of you may have heard that there's school on Saturdays in some schools in Japan, but it's not very common anymore. Even if some schools do have school on Saturday, it's only for about a half a day, and then it's just club activities the rest of the time. Even if your school doesn't have school on Saturdays, usually clubs have meetings anyway, especially the sports clubs. They meet a lot. Now here's some things that get some people really confused. There's only 3 years of high school in Japan. That would be the equivalent of having 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders. Only in Japan they're not called 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. They're called 1st, 2nd, and 3rd years. So if this makes any more sense, they've got 6 years of elementary school, 3 years of middle school, and 3 years of high school. While in America, it's 5 years of elementary school, 3 years of middle school, depending on it, or 4 depending on if you count 6th grade, and then 4 years of high school. Now, as in every high school, there's always like a ton of students per grade. So in America, students rotate their classes. They go to their next class independently. They don't usually, for most schools, they don't go with whole classes to their next subject, right? In Japan, you have the same group of typically 30 to 40 students all day, every day, all year. You have the same classmates. And you stay in one classroom. You don't move classrooms. The teachers will move to your classroom when it's time to change subjects. Now this is an exception for special classes like PE or cooking class, something like that. Also, if you've ever watched anime, or if you just know anything else about the Japanese school system, that there's like letters in their class names. So like, for example, there's class 1A or 1C or 1D. The letters actually mean something. If you've put it together now, the numbers are for like first year, second year, third year. That's pretty easy. The letters actually mean something. Every high school student has to take an entrance exam into their high schools. The scores that they get pretty much place them in whichever class. So, the students with the highest scores get placed in class A. The ones with the next highest scores, class B, then class C, so on and so forth. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that the people in class A are the geniuses of the school, and then the people in the lower letters are not the smartest in the school. It could just mean that they're not good testers. We all know that there's somebody who's going to be a horrible tester, but they're super smart. I guess a good comparison would be the equivalent of honors classes, AP classes, or IB classes. They're just higher level, they can move faster, learn more material, while regular classes just move at their own pace, a little slower, just the regular old stuff that you need to know. If you're wondering why I suddenly changed clothes and look a little different today, and if you're also wondering why my cat is gone, she's not up there anymore. It's because I didn't realize I didn't finish the video from last time, so I'm finishing it now. And it's another night, and it's also very late. Or, I guess you could say it's very early. Anyway, everybody, thanks for watching and listening. I hope you learned something new. I suppose this means I'll see you next time.